For calling Nick's Lotus. To ask about a refill with your prescriptions, press 1.
What's going on? With the announcement of Lorwyn Eclipsed, I'm not only incredibly excited for my favorite set of all time to make a return, it's also time to take a look at Avatar: The Last Airbender and see what cards settled at under $1 and let you guys know about some power you can snag up on the lowski. If that sounds cool to you, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, consider throwing me a buck on Patreon, and let's get into it. The first card I want to talk about for 36 cents is Obsessive Pursuit, being 1 and a black for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a clue token. Whenever you attack, put X 1/1 counters on target creature, where X is the number of permanents you've sacrificed this turn. If X is 3 or greater, that creature gains a lifelink until end of turn. Now sure, this card's going to be good in any deck that you consider doing a lot of sacrificing. Yorsum, the Balrog. But am I crazy to think that this is just kind of good in like a lot of lists? I want to try it in Taval, I want to try it in Arna. I feel like I want to pick up a bunch of copies of this, especially because it's 36 cents, and just give it a test in a bunch of different decks, because it feels like a 1 less for Phyrexian Arena for, sure, not as good of card draw, but you get a built-in buff and potentially lifelink. I don't know, I think it's worth trying out for sure. Moving on, the next card I want to talk about for 81 cents is Firebending Student, being 1 and a red for a 1/2 prowess, Firebend X, where X is this creature's power. Okay, yeah, this set's absolutely disgusting. You're telling me this is an 81 cent card? You're telling me I could play Monstrous Rage on this thing for 1 red, give it a monster token, +2/+0, and trigger prowess, and make it a 5 power to attack with it, add 5 mana? I think we could probably work with that. Oh, I don't know, throw a Blackblade Reforged on this thing in a deck like, oh, I don't know, Zada Hedron Grinder to then use the mana during combat to dump a ton of instants out of hand onto Zada, or a commander like Kenrith where we can play something like the aforementioned Monstrous Rage, making her a 5 power, produce 5 mana, use all that to dump into Kenrith for a number of his abilities. Great card if you plan on playing a lot of spells at instant speed during your turn, so you can utilize the Firebending, or if you just got like a bunch of mana sinks, or your commander is a mana sink. Up next, we've got the girlfriend that didn't turn into the moon, Suki Courageous Rescuers, 1 and 2 white for a 2/4. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield during your turn, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This ability triggers once a turn, and she is 22 cents. Listen, I'm a bit of an old head, alright? I started playing during OG Ravnica when I was 8. I don't even want to think about how many years ago that was, but thinking about how anthems used to be like 1 and 2 white to give your board 1/1, and that was all they did. Getting a anthem that's stapled onto a creature that also makes more creatures. It's also really good if you're in a like treasure deck, clue deck, blood deck, food deck, anything like that, because you can sack those permanents during other players' turns, get your 1/1 during each other player's turns, so you'll be netting a lot of 1/1s. But pretty much in like any token deck, this is going to be good, because you're probably going to be running like Altars of Dementia, Ashnod's Altars, Phyrexian Altars, so being able to trigger Suki is going to be pretty easy. And I don't even want to bring up what happens if you spark double this thing, because when you got 2 Sukis on board, I was going to say the joke writes itself. You know what, you guys have been so good. How about a good budget Mardu card for you? Firelord Zuko comes in at 41 cents, being a red, a white, and a black for a 2/4. Firebend X, where X is Firelord Zuko's power. We already talked about why that can be pretty good. He's also got whenever you cast a spell from exile, and whenever a permanent you control enters from exile, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Again, throw like a Blackblade Reforged on this guy, and you're looking pretty good with his Firebending. Now on top of this, we have a ton of instant speed token generators like Grand Crescendo or Call to Coppercoats, something like Secure the Waste, which can all utilize the Firebending mana we make from Zuko. And on top of that, we run impulse draw stuff like Prosper Tombbound, or blink spells like Cloud Shift to cause spells to either be cast or enter from exile to start putting 1/1 counters on all these tokens we've made. Yeah, it's pretty good. And if your deck has Mardu in it, it's doing those similar things, I think Zuko's going to be good in the deck. I think he really shines as a commander, because very strong for 41 cents. So if you've been looking for like a more powerful commander and you're more on a budget, I think this is a great choice. Let's talk about Diligent Zookeeper for 19 cents. This 3 and a green 4/4 gives each non-human creature you control +1/+1 for each of its creature types, a maximum of 10. Now, this is a card I considered for my Taval the Balance Scale deck, as Taval is a spirit dragon that makes zombie druids, so there's a good amount of creature types going on there. It didn't quite make the cut. This one is deck specific, so just look through your decks. If you find that you run a bunch of creatures with a bunch of different creature types, or your commander makes tokens of a bunch of different creature types, maybe consider it, because a 4-drop 4/4 that could be potentially giving a +2/+2 +3/+3 to creatures on your board. I don't know. Again, see if it works. But if you really want to talk about some cheap, overlooked power from this set, let's look at Ember Island production for 18 cents. Being 3 and 2 blue for a sorcery, choose one, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it's not legendary and it's a 4/4 hero in addition to its other types. Or you can create a token that's a copy of target creature an opponent controls, except it's not legendary and it's a 2/2 coward in addition to its other types. Remind me again, how much is quantum misalignment? It's 10 fucking dollars. Okay, what about Aeronicus's vile duplication? Oh, it's also 10 fucking dollars. And this one's 18 cents and can also target other people's stuff. Yeah, sure, it makes it a 4/4 if it's ours and a 2/2 if it's theirs. I don't really care if the Colossal Grave Reaver I just copied isn't a 7/6 anymore. I just want its ability. And also, my commander, Taval, is a 4/4, so doesn't change her at all. Yeah, this is one I'm definitely going to pick up before it goes up in price, because one of the most shockingly low price cards on this list is Airbender Ascension, being 1 and a white for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, airbend up to 1 target creature, meaning you exile it, and the owner of that creature can recast it for 2 mana. Whenever a creature you control enters, put a quest counter on this enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if this enchantment has 4 or more quest counters on it, exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield. Were you sick of your teleportation circles costing 4? Your conjurer's closets costing 5? We'll look no further, because we got a 2-drop one now that enters with a built-in blink effect. Oh yeah, the counter part of this also doesn't say non-token, so you could play a Call of the Coppercoats to get all your counters on this thing, play a Siege Gang Commander to get 3 more 1/1 goblins, blink it at the end of turn with Airbender Ascension, get 3 more 1/1 goblins. You've got like 10 plus creatures on the turn. Not to mention any future blinks that this thing's going to be doing. Incredible card. Even, you don't even have to be doing token blink, just in a blink deck. This is insane. You're going to turn it on immediately. Am I missing something? 77 cents my ass. Moving on to Beifong's Bounty Hunters, being 35 cents for a 2, a black and a green 4/4. Whenever a non-land creature you control dies, Earthbend X, where X is that creature's power. This is kind of insane in a lands matter deck, right? Like in like a Lord Windgrace deck, where you're going to be sacking lands, sending them to the bin, replaying lands, running tons of landfall interaction to get value from these lands ETBing. And this one also doesn't say non-token, so whenever any of your creatures in the deck, any of your tokens in the deck, any of those die, you start getting to animate your lands, which not only applies pressure to your opponents for more combat, it also applies pressure to your opponents, because if they ever get rid of those lands, thanks to Earthbending, they're going to re-enter the battlefield and re-trigger all your landfall stuff. I can't help but think this is pretty good. If my Taval the balance scale was more of a landfall deck than it is a reanimator deck, I would run the shit out of this. Lands matter decks, eat your heart out, dude. This is insane. But moving on to a card that I 100% am going to be running in my Taval list, and probably most lists that have black in it, because holy is this card good. Foggy Swamp Visions is 22 cents. It's 1 and 2 black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, Waterbend X, exile X target creatures from graveyards. For each creature card exiled this way, create a token that's a copy of it. At the beginning of your next end step, sacrifice those tokens. Master Multiplied for 1. Holy, is that good in Master Multiplied. Also, I just think this is good in like a lot of decks. I mean, yeah, looking at my Taval list more in depth, this is insane in there. Returning a Calidus Assassin, or a Colossal Grave Reaver, or a Bane of Progress, or an Archon of Cruelty. There's a ton of stuff that I really wouldn't mind just getting an extra ETB of it for like 3 mana. This is my favorite card on the list today. Absolutely insane. Go pick up as many as you can, because they're 22 cents. That's honestly how I feel about every card on this list today. Pick up as many as you can. It's insane. Moving on to the final card of today's list, we've got Spirit Water Revival. This 45-cent sorcery is 1 and 2 blue. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may waterbend 6. Draw 2 cards. If this spell's additional cost was paid, instead shuffle your graveyard into your library, draw 7 cards, and you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. So I reread this a couple times because I assumed it would be like a wheel. Like if it was turned on, it would like discard your hand, draw you 7, shuffle your graveyard or something like that. No, this feels like I'm like reviewing Ancestral Recall. Like, you know what? I'm just like, hot take. I think 3 mana, draw 7, have no maximum hand size is pretty good in this game. I don't know. I think it's definitely not 45 cents. but sure, Wizards, I will definitely accept that and pick all of these up for extremely cheap. By the way, if you want to buy every single card we talked about today, it'll cost you $3.96. So go do that, because these are all cracked. Avatar: The Last Airbender had some absolute insane power in it, which kind of made the cards that were like the top tier powerhouses of the set have to be designed so powerful to really shine amongst this sea of gold. We had to have a couple emeralds in this sea of gold, but thanks to those emeralds, all this gold costs like 45 cents. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and scoop those up real quick. If you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to show a little bit of additional support as well as submit your deck list for Friday night deck reviews, consider showing a little support over on Patreon or YouTube members. Starts as low as $1. And you can also submit your decks for Friday night deck reviews. So if that interests you, check those out. Let me know what some of your favorite budget power cards from Avatar were, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.